Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm joined by Junior from the Wisconsin women's hockey team, Maddi Wheeler. Maddi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, your team has started off very strong, going 10-2 in your first 12 games. So I'm curious, talk about the importance of having a strong start to this season.
I think we started off with our Penn State series where we lost our first game of the year, and I think that was a bit of a shock to everyone on the team. And I think ever since then, we've just kind of kept rolling, just trying to get back from that and knowing that we have to compete against every team, no matter who it is. And then kind of having our series against Duluth, losing in overtime, definitely a good game. And then just kind of testing ourselves against a top five opponent is a huge task for us. And then to come back out the next day and beat them, I think was really showed some character on our team, and just a good start. I think we just got to keep building off of it going into Minnesota series.
Yeah, well, how much talk about like what you took away from that Duluth series because obviously it was very competitive. It seems like you two teams have kind of a rivalry brewing a little bit, very physical game. So, what do you take away from a series like that where it's like you sort of have to grind out a win. It's not going to be pretty by any stretch.
Yeah, I think when you play a top team, like especially in our league, WCHA, it's going to be a lot more physical. It's going to be faster, and there's going to be a bit more structure to the game, I think. So for us, we have quite a few new faces on our team. So I think that was really our first test as a team as far as WCHA like hockey goes. Like that's kind of where you're playing like a top five team in the country. So just sticking to what we know and then losing that game, just like it, not necessarily a wake up call for us, but just to know what we need to improve. Because when you start playing better teams, some of our weaknesses might come out. So just improving on that, which we did leading into our next game, was a big thing for us.
Now, obviously, speaking of some of the new faces that are bringing teams on the team, you're returning some key players from 2 years ago that were centralized for the Olympics. Talk about the impact that they've had on your team. Players like Lacey Eden, Britta Curl, who didn't play last year but now are back and have that sort of international experience under their belt heading into this season in college hockey.
Yeah, I think like having them all back, it just goes to show the depth on our team. Adding Nat back to our D end is huge. She's such a good defenseman. Bit of a stay-at-home D, but just adds so much to our D core. And then having KK and the offensive ability of her adds a lot to our game. And then I think having, the three forwards back for us, just gives us a lot deeper um, team compared to like last season without them. Um, and I think it just allows us to overall become a better as a team.
And obviously, you're bringing some new faces as well. Some of the highlights of your class are Olympic silver medalists Jesse Comfort and Caroline Harvey. How have those new players acclimated themselves to Wisconsin, and what have you seen from them in the first 12 games of the season?
Yeah, I think with Jessie, she played 4 years at BU, so she's played college hockey for and been a leader there. And I think just having her experience adds a lot. And then also just having a solid center come in again adds to the depth of our team, and she fits right in with our forwards. And then I think KK, she brings, like I said, that offensive edge of the defenseman that we need. Definitely, she's going to be like developed so much over 4 years. It's going to be crazy to see what she does. But I think obviously, like the first month of her playing, it already shows how good of a player she is.
And I think the biggest change that we've seen with your team is goaltending. Obviously, Kennedy Blair's graduated, and she was your starting goalie for the past 2 years. What have you seen from your goaltender so far this season, and what have you liked from their game so far?
I think, they compete every practice, every game. I know they're rotating right now. But I think just showing that they're going to come in every day and compete for that starting job is a big thing, especially when not necessarily a lot of experience in game, but I think our practices are just as much of a test, because you're playing against everyone on our team who's pretty good. I think as a goalie, they've improved a lot over the years, especially like with Jane being in my class. I've seen her like develop from our freshman year to now, and it's pretty crazy the stride she's made. Yeah, but they're both looking solid, so yeah, pretty happy with that.
Now, talk about your game a little bit. Coming into your junior year, like what were your goals and expectations for yourself individually? And obviously, did you have any team goals as well? I'm assuming it's just national championship or bust, but I'm curious if there's any other team goals you might have.
I think just for myself is building off of my sophomore year. I think, I didn't play a ton my freshman year as COVID year and stuff. So I had a big off season before my sophomore year and coming in, just adjusting to roles. I played center my whole life and I switched to left wing last year. So definitely a big adjustment, but I think just building off of everything that I was starting to do last year, and just bring it to this year, continue to get better, especially playing wing, and then always just being able to adjust to any role that I'm given on the team, whether it's like PK, power play, if I have to play, I had to play center for just a couple of shifts on the weekend, and it's just doing whatever I can to help the team, I guess, from my standpoint. And then I guess for the team, I think last year we definitely we had a lot of injury we ran into, so our depth kind of was dwindling, I guess. But now to have a full team here, a lot of people back, we have the depth. I think just getting better every game, taking it week by week, and then obviously you're always hoping for a national championship, but we want to take it game by day, game by game. Sorry, place high in WCHAs, and then hopefully make it back to Frozen Four too.
Yeah, talk about your offseason a little bit. What was like some of the improvements you've made to your game? Because like you said before, from your freshman year to your sophomore year, you really improved your game and sort of had a much bigger role in the team. I guess how are you trying to build off that, and what are some of the improvements you've made to your game so far this year?
Yeah, so this off season, a lot of us stay on campus over the summer, so I went home for a bit. I actually like took like probably like a month and a half or so off hockey, just not skating, give myself a break, and then came back to campus and basically skating, lifting most days all the way through the summer. And I think having that break just kind of let me reset and get back into hockey. Again, appreciate it. You skate every day and it's a lot of work, but coming into this off season, you want to get bigger, faster, stronger every year. And our strength coaches and skills guys definitely helped out a lot this year. And I think for me, just I'm not very big, like I'm 5'4", but I think just trying to get more solid, like physically, just to help myself. Like as I said, adjusting the roles. If I have to be a bit more of a grinder on a line or something, I can do that if I'm like physically in better shape.
How important is the mental aspect of hockey from your perspective? Because it seems like a lot of players now are sort of like trying to, like, I guess, besides working out, also work out their minds to be mentally confident heading into a game. I'm curious if that's something you've been working on this season and what's the importance of that like for yourself?
Yeah, we're actually really lucky at Wisconsin. We have a new sports psychologist that we get to work with. And I've had meetings with him and he's helped a ton. Not just as a player, but like as yourself as a person, because if you're struggling with things off the ice, sometimes that can leak into your on ice game. So I think being able to have like resources like that here at Wisconsin helps a lot. And I think I guess wherever like anyone goes to school, just using those people, definitely it can help your personal life and that translate into your game as well.
Well, I want to transition now and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and kind of work all the way up to where you are now. So, you're from Aaronsville, Ontario. Talk about growing
Yeah.
up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, so really, really small town. Just I learned how to skate on my backyard on the lake with my brother. I just kind of played like house league probably for a couple of years, and then really I just kind of did whatever my brother did for a long time. We played on some teams together, and then I ended up playing boys AAA for the Quinny Red Devils for 6 years. So basically most of like middle school up until high school. Yeah, and I just from there I went to Nepean, which was a great experience before college. But I really like playing with the boys, and that's a big part of like kind of the player I am was playing boys hockey. I think helped a lot.
Yeah, talk about the transition from boys to girls hockey. What was like some of the adjustments you had to make, and Do you think playing boys hockey, how I guess how did playing boys hockey help your game out when you transitioned into girls hockey?
Well, I got to play a year of hitting and then a bit of summers with hitting. So, um, definitely made me a lot more like aware on the ice, having to learn how to, I was a lot smarter than a lot of the guys, and sometimes I get lit up. So definitely trying to keep my head up more, I think helped me develop a lot as a player. And then when I went from boys to girls, I just went straight to U19. So I was like 14 playing with U19. So um, it definitely wasn't like skill wise, it was all there. But it was like you're playing with girls a lot older than you. So it is a big adjustment and definitely like was harder for me adjusting like just like not necessarily the physicality, but just like watching being physical because I definitely took a lot of penalties growing up, especially when I switched to girls. So I think over time, definitely had to work on that a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was a big transition for me.
Did you get to light anyone up yourself? Any big checks when you got to play hitting hockey?
Probably out of 30 games in a boys season, I maybe made like two big hits, so I didn't do it very much. I got lit up a lot more though.
That's still impressive though, to have two big hits more than me. I usually was scared and tried to avoid any hits that I could. I never got
Yeah,
lit up, but I also never had any big checks. I really did not want to be involved with that at
yeah,
all.
yeah. I tried not to hit people because then I knew I got it back at me. But yeah,
That's sort of what led
yeah,
me to become a goaltender because I didn't really enjoy the hitting. But I know that some people love that part of the game, and I do too. But
yeah,
like, I don't want to be
yeah,
involved with it. So
yeah, yeah.
now, before college hockey, like you mentioned, you played in the PWHL for the Nepean Wildcats. What was your experience like there? And talk about, I guess, what you took away from that.
Yeah. So I played in a PN for 4 years. My first year, as I said, I was a lot younger than everyone. Which honestly, it's kind of like college where like there's a big age gap, but through those 4 years, I think just like learning from everyone, like my coaches, like Bruce McDonald, he basically brought me from like just a like kid who was coming to play from boys up until Wisconsin. He like coached me with everything, and then just learning from girls, like because every year like seniors would be going off to play D1 and just learning from everyone and just trying to grow as a player and like developing just from like a skilled kid to a good teammate and like somebody that can play all facets of the game. I think was a huge thing for me.
Yeah, and how did that experience help prepare you for college hockey? Because in my opinion, I think the PWHL is probably the best developmental league for women's hockey, just because a lot of players in that league are going to play D1. So it's that transition from juniors to college hockey isn't as difficult as someone who might be in some other leagues where there
Mhm.
isn't that many D1 commits.
Yeah, I definitely would say playing in the PM, we normally would play like the same team like Saturday, Sunday. So playing in WCHA, we do this similar thing where it's series. So that was definitely something that was pretty neat. Just getting to do series when you're at that age. Um, the travel, you get adjusted to it. But overall, it's just the competition level. Like every team would have good players and it was always like competitive. It was always physical. Um, yeah, and definitely like I remember like my like freshman year, like Malte was still in the league. So was like Fillier. Like we played against like looking back, I played against a lot of really good players when I was young and like them now is pretty crazy. But yeah, the PW did a really good job preparing for college hockey, I would say.
And you also played for the Canadian national team U18 team in the World Championships. What was that experience like for you, getting the chance to represent your country on that big of a stage?
It was really great. I think going from playing like Team Ontario with a lot of girls in the PW, to getting to play on Team Canada was pretty crazy. Because I played as a younger age and then like normal. So we won it in Japan and then we lost the next year. But really, like whenever you would go to those tournaments, like you learn so much from the coaches and the players, and you're playing against everyone who's top notch. So it's all like just a learning experience, really. And I know like every time I came back from one of those tournaments, like I'd be on my top game, and just like the people you meet and the experiences you get to have just to play hockey is pretty insane. And always thankful for that.
Now, talk about your recruitment process to Wisconsin. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go to Wisconsin versus other schools you might have looked at?
Yeah, so my recruiting, I started really young, kind of when I was still playing boys. I didn't really understand that like going D1 was, I guess, obtainable because I didn't really have the exposure to it. And then I started playing girls summer hockey, and that's kind of when I started to get recruited. And then I had a couple players who played for Nepean play at Wisconsin, as well as like some family friends' daughters played here. And I just heard all good things about it, as well as just seeing like all the girls who, would play for U18s or development team or like the Olympic team. It's pretty hard to not go to a school like that. But then also, school comes first. So getting a good degree was always like one of my parents' big emphasis. And going to a school like Wisconsin, the academics are pretty second to none. So being able to do that while playing hockey was a big thing for me too.
Now, how do you handle the pressure of being a Wisconsin women's hockey player? Because obviously, when you look at the alumni, it's like pretty much what some of the best women's hockey players of all time have played for Wisconsin. So, I guess is there any pressure, like sort of trying to help continue that legacy, and how do you handle that pressure if there is any?
Um, I don't know if it's necessarily pressure, but I do think playing for Wisconsin, like you're expected to win. Like really no matter the circumstances, even just from like the school itself, like women's hockey team, we want to win all of our sports definitely, but I think just like getting the privilege to play here and play in a spot where a lot, as you said, a lot of great players have played. Not necessarily pressure, but I think you just take more pride in it, and makes you want to work harder on and off the ice, just to be able to get a chance to play here and win, I guess. Yeah.
And obviously, you get to play under Coach Mark Johnson. What have you learned under him? And talk about what it's like playing under such a legendary coach like him.
Yeah, coach is a he he sorry, the way coach does things is it's very like this is how we do it, this is how it's gonna be. And it's pretty enjoyable from an individual standpoint because you know what you're gonna get from him. Um, so being able to have like individual like development around what you're getting from the coaching staff is pretty cool. And definitely the same thing. Like he's coached a lot of great players in the past, but always just trying to learn from all of our coaching staff is always a big takeaway too.
Does he ever talk about the Miracle on Ice team, or does he try to stay away from that?
So I've been told that he's only ever talked about it like in recent years. One time when the team had a trip up to Duluth, before I got here, but he's definitely a very humble coach. I think if you were talking to him, you would have pretty much no idea that he's done all the great things in his career. Just like very humble and yeah, maybe one day we'll hear about it. But yeah.
I feel like your class should have the chance to hear about it, you know? Like, well, every class should have the
Yeah.
chance to have that experience once, I feel like.
Yeah. Maybe eventually we'll see. Yeah.
Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, or was it just the physicality of it, or was it sort of the players that you're going against? Because that freshman year team that you were on was just loaded with so many talented players.
Yeah, definitely my freshman year. It was more so just like learning what role you can play to make an impact on the team. A lot of us, the majority of us that come here, we're all skilled players like growing up. And then like my freshman year, I kind of took on like a fourth line role. Like I really only like penalty killed and stuff, which it's a hard thing to do, but going through that and like knowing how you can make an impact on the team however you can, I think is a big thing. And I think like taking that with me like to like development team in the summer, like whether you're gonna play left wing, right wing, center, whatever, when you go to camps, I think just adjusting to roles within a team is a huge thing. Because you know the player that you are, but you also have to want to do whatever it takes for the team to win. So I think that was a big thing for me. It was just adjusting to those types of situations.
Now, obviously, your freshman year, your team won the national championship. What was that experience like for you being a part of that team? And where do you keep that championship ring today?
Well, the trophy and the ring is in my room. And just being a part of that team was it was a short season. Nothing was normal at all. Like school wasn't normal, hockey wasn't normal. And I think, you play like you being a freshman, like we were at the dorms pretty much on our own for a full year, which is something that's pretty hard. But to get that end result at the end kind of made it all worth it. But then also just like getting to watch like people like Daryl Watts like just play their game was like insane, and like getting to learn from her. It's pretty crazy. She was quite the player. But yeah, I think just like learning for everyone when you're kind of in a freshman position was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, you had a really good freshman class that year. Obviously, Lacey Eden joined that team sort of in the middle of the season, but you also had Casey O'Brien and McKenna Webster. What was it like? What's it like being part of your class, and what have you like learned from each other, especially as a Canadian player, since you have a lot of top American players that you now teammates with when you played against them in those U18 championships?
Yeah, I would definitely say our freshman year, I think individually we all had very different experiences. But then definitely like coming into our sophomore year, like Lacey was gone, obviously, but me, Casey, and McKenna, you could obviously see the strides we all made in our game. With Casey getting a top 10 Patty nomination, and then Mac having a really good season as well, and then myself making strides. I think the three of us, um, we really wanted to just show like the players that we were our sophomore year and like make strides individually, but to also make a huge impact on the team. Just like I think we had a lot of expectations coming in as a freshman class, and then not really getting the chance to play a ton and having a weird season was definitely hard for us. But I think last year, like our sophomore year, we just tried to prove who we were as a class and as players. And I think we did a good job of that. And then obviously building onto that, coming into our junior seasons, like Casey's got an A on our team. And it goes to show like as a class, we developed a lot over the years.
Is it weird not having McKenna on the team this season, and how weird is it going to be playing Ohio State when that day comes on the schedule?
Yeah, it's definitely really weird not having her. I mean, she was like one of our best friends. But definitely she's killing it in field hockey. Definitely really happy for her there. And then it's definitely gonna be weird playing against her. So I'll probably line up against her on the right wing. But definitely happy for her getting the chance to play two sports. But yeah, definitely it's gonna be weird playing against her.
Now, talk a little bit about your sophomore year because individually you had your best season in college hockey. What did you take away from that season? Even though I guess it didn't live up to your team's expectations, only making it to the first round of the tournament.
Yeah, I think going from freshman year to sophomore year, I just wanted to just make a lot of strides in the off season, which I thought I did. I got to go to Team Canada camp, which I wasn't originally invited to, and then I got to a last minute invite and ended up making the team. And I think that was kind of a big point for me, just to like kind of like I guess want it more. And going into sophomore year after coming from that camp, I felt like I was playing some of my best hockey. And then again, just adjusting. I started there as center, and then I moved to left wing. Adjusting to the roles was a big thing for me. Um, and then just you know, we didn't like. I think at one point in the year we only had three lines with injuries and everything, and then myself getting injured for our Ohio State series. It was definitely a grind last year, but I think we all kind of banded together to try and make the most of it. Um, and I think, yeah, just I was just trying my best to make an impact wherever I could last year, and just seeing however it would go, in my opinion.
Now, thinking about this season, like what game or event that are you looking forward to the most? Obviously, one benefit about playing for Wisconsin women's hockey is you guys get to do some cool in-season tournaments. So I'm curious if there's any like particular game or series that you're looking forward to this year, or if you've already played it.
I think our next series, Minnesota at home, that's going to be huge, just for standings. And then whenever you play Minnesota, it's a pretty crazy rivalry. So I am very excited to see how that goes. And then we also get to go to Quinnipiac New Year's Eve and day. This year they came and played us last winter break, so that'll be pretty good to go out there and play them because I know they're doing well in the ECAC right now. So I think those will be good series to look forward to, and then obviously Ohio State series too.
Yeah, obviously those Quinnipiac games last year were super fun to watch. That could have been probably the
Hmm.
best regular season series in the entire season. So, obviously that's gonna be cool for you guys to go down there and be the road team. What's like your favorite
Yeah.
road arena you've played in so far?
Um, Favorite arena? Oof. I mean, Minnesota, they got a pretty good arena and they get pretty good crowds. My favorite road trip, I would say, is our Duluth trip, but I'd say like arena, I think you like Minnesota is pretty cool to play at.
Heard the visiting locker rooms are the worst in college hockey, though. Can you elaborate on
Yeah,
that? Or yeah,
yeah. They're like almost like high school football locker rooms, but I mean, you can't complain. You're playing college hockey, so can't complain. You don't spend that much time in the dressing room. So
what's it like playing at Levon? Because that's probably the best rank in college hockey, or one of it at least.
yeah, it's definitely probably one of the my favorite rinks I've ever played on. I mean, like the atmosphere, it's second to none. I mean, this year, I don't know if we've been drawing the same amount of fans as usual, but it's like just getting to play in front of a crowd that big. You don't get to do that everywhere, and I think it's pretty special. We're definitely lucky to play in front of our great fans, and then the rink itself, it's so it's so nice. The ice, everything. There's no better rink to play at, in my opinion.
What's the best part about being a Wisconsin women's hockey player?
Um, Honestly, I think just like our team, like you get to play with like girls who have had like so many different like backgrounds, like just like what we are as a team is like everyone's from different places. And I think we're pretty close off the ice. We got a pretty fun group. We kind of always do. And I think getting to go to Wisconsin, it's a big school, and having a team to fall back on is it's something pretty special.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I get to ask you some
I,
non-hockey questions, just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. So first one is, what is like your favorite? If there was one meal you could have for the rest of your life, what would that meal be?
oh, um, Honestly, like one meal, probably just like mm, probably like steak.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Now, if there was any athletic team that you could play for at Wisconsin that wasn't the women's hockey team, which team would that be?
um, well, if it was a college sport, we don't have lacrosse. I would love to play lacrosse, but probably like soccer, basketball. I think would be cool to play.
Now, who is the funniest teammate that you have at Wisconsin?
Um, we definitely have a room full of characters. I think everyone's pretty funny. Um, but I think my roommate Casey O'Brien's pretty funny because I know her pretty well. So yeah.
And obviously, you guys have a lot of famous players on your team. So, who has the best social media out of all your teammates?
Ooh. Um, I mean, I think like Jesse is like the most like Insta famous. Honestly, I have no idea to be honest with you, but I know like probably Jesse because I mean she has like the Avalanche and like NHL followers, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, the Olympic stuff too helps out with that.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit.
When's your
Yeah.
blue check mark coming in?
Actually, hopefully sometime soon, but we never know.
Have you
Yeah.
applied for it? I don't even know how you get it.
Our like social media guy actually like was going through that recently, so hopefully if you notice a couple more on our team, that's why. So
Mhm.
maybe at some point, you never know. I'm not too active on Instagram though, so
Hopefully, sometime. That'll be just cool to have it. I think that's like a
yeah,
status symbol, really.
yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I need that, but yeah, we'll see.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself? Coming in pregame, like who's looking the best?
Pregame, hmm, I'd say like Sophie Helgeson has pretty good pregame fits.
Now, final non-hockey question is, what like music do you like to listen to?
A little bit of everything, honestly. I'm a big Mac Miller fan though, I'd say.
Nice.
So yeah.
What's your favorite song by him? Because I know the Flyers back in the day had this song called "Knock Knock." It was like one of, I think it was one of his
Oh,
first songs he ever released, but they
yeah.
played it at the 24/7 TV series, and it looked like such a fun time in the locker room. So that's like always my favorite Mac Miller song.
Um, I mean, there's a lot to pick from, but probably like A off his Kids album, probably.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
final question before I let you go is, do you have any shout outs or anything you want to talk about for the final minute of this interview? Floor is all yours. If there's anything you want to promote or people you want to shout out, feel free to do that. I know we mentioned some of your teammates, but
Yeah.
if there's any teammate you forgot to mention, feel free to give them a shout out, or family member or friend of the
Yeah.
team. Feel free to do that.
I mean, obviously, shout out to all the teammates, and then obviously, I think important stuff at Wisco too, like our trainer staff, and sis, like they literally keep our team together. Definitely keep me together. And then obviously my parents, like my mom, and my brother, big shout out to them, and then all my past coaches, especially like Bruce McDonald, huge shout out to him for everything he did for me. But yeah, definitely family as well and friends back home.
Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It really means so much for myself. And good luck for the rest of the season. I know your team's going to do great and definitely be in the mix for a national championship trophy this season. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem.